Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting for Monday, July 27th, 2020. I hereby declare this meeting of the Howell Township Zoning Board to be open, adequate notice having been given pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act in the following manner. First, on December 6, 2019, a copy of said notice was mailed to the Asbury Park Press and the Tri-Town News. Second, on December 6, 2019, a copy of said notice was hand-delivered to the clerk of the Township of Howell. Third, on December 6, 2019, said notice was posted in the office of the Zoning Board and on the bulletin board in the Howell Township Municipal Building, 4567 Route 9, Howell Township, New Jersey. On June 3, 2020, a notice was sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Star-Ledger that this meeting would be held in person for the board members, professionals, and the applicants and their professional teams, but members of the public would need to watch the live video feed and call in with questions. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code and your safety, please be advised that this facility is designed with 2 emergency exits, which are on your right at the front and rear of the meeting room. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues of what the board may legally consider in reaching their decision, and the decorum must be appropriate to a judicial hearing, must be maintained at all times.
Thank you. We have a roll call, please.
Yes, you may. Mr. Hughes?
Here.
Mr. Mertens?
Here.
Mr. Moretti's been excused. Mr. O'Donnell's been excused. Mr. Orozco?
Here.
Mr. Sayed has been excused. Mr. Cantor?
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Here.
And Chairman Nansen.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And then also, I'd like to take a moment of silence just after this in respect for John Armada, who passed this past week. Also, remember some of our board members that are going through some trials now, Tom O'Donnell, Mr. Moretti, and Paul Sayed. You know, let's kind of remember them in our prayers, that they get well and speedy recoveries. And also this country.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Tropley, mind swearing in the professionals, please? Thank you. Approval of minutes, regular meeting, July 13th, 2020. Eligible voters, Hughes, Mertz, O'Donnell, Cantor, Gonzalez, Nansen. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Merton,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hughes. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Mertens?
Yes.
Mr. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Chairman Nansen?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Vouchers,
I have no vouchers this evening.
correspondence.
I do have correspondence. I have a letter, or actually an email, from Rudolph Maharaj. He is the attorney for the Weir bulk variance application, which was on tonight's agenda, and they want to, they asked if they could have a new hearing date. They have some things that they want to work out on that, and they'd like to submit better plans into the board before they're heard. I did talk to him and said our agendas are pretty packed. I offered him the date of September 14th. I told him he is third on the agenda. I can't guarantee it, but that's the best date I could give him at this time.
Okay.
He did also grant the board an extension through the end of October.
Okay. Also, Charlie, you want to reach out to their engineers and, see if you could get that worked out?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Chairman. So I have been in correspondence with the applicant's engineer. Obviously, at the last meeting, there was discussion regarding some drainage concerns on the property, particularly the northeast corner. There was questions on whether or not there's any existing drainage systems in that vicinity. We've done a subsequent site visit, and there does look like there is some drainage infrastructure and a drainage easement to the north of that property. My understanding is that the applicant was looking into that and possible connection. I've also been in correspondence with the Township Engineering Department, and provided the joiners had no issues, I think the township would be amenable to some additional drainage infrastructure and tie in there. So, to your answer, yes, I will correspond with the applicant's engineer. And we'll
Try to get that septic down.
septic as well, yes. I have been in correspondence with the Board of Health, trying to get some more information on the water table and the soil logs, but I'll work with Board of Health and also with the applicant's engineer to try to get that resolved.
Okay,
All right?
thank you. Okay, case number BA 20-103, Robert Weir is going to be carried to September 14th, 7:30 PM with no further notice, and extension of time through October, the end of October, right? End of October, okay. Okay, for anybody listening online, I hope they got it. If there's any public that wanted to say something about that case, so. Okay, next case on the agenda, BA 1927, 940 Highway 33 East. Use variance preliminary final major subdivision with ancillary bulk variance. Application of 940 Highway 33 East LLC as applicant owner seeking a use variance, preliminary and final major subdivision ancillary bulk variance approval to subdivide 2 existing lots into 3 new lots with no new construction or demolition on premises known as Block 168, 804, 11, 940, Route 33. Expiration date, September 15th, 2020. Mr. Holleran,
Good
welcome.
evening, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you and board members. Vince Halloran from Freehold on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Halloran. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Before we begin this evening, I've been made aware of an issue that came up with the service in this particular case. I had a brief conversation with Mr. Halloran. Mr. Halloran, would you indicate to the board the issue regarding the service on the DOT properties? My understanding is that there are 4 properties listed that are on the tax map that was provided to you, and that you would actually serve 2 of the 4.
I think we serve 3. There
Yeah,
are...
if you would just elaborate,
Well,
please.
the property is on a state highway.
Correct?
You can sit, Mr.
Yeah, have
Holleran,
it-
to pick you up with the mic.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you.
You're kind to old people. Thank you.
Well, we
The,
can't pick you up on the mic
I'm
up
sorry.
there.
The property's on State Highway 33, so we have to notify the Department of Transportation, which we did in accordance with their address. They also apparently own 3 or 4 separate pieces of property. Each one of them is listed on, 3 of them are listed on the tax map, address of 1034
Right,
Parkway
1035 Parkway.
in Trenton, which is the DOT building.
Right.
One of them, strangely, is listed at 1035 Parkway, Ewing, which is also a
Right.
local post office. When Eileen brought it to my attention that we didn't send one to the Ewing address, I called down there and I spoke to a fellow named Dave Cook, who's in the mailroom, and he tells me that everything that comes in, either post office, is stamped by the mailroom. So, my opinion, they've been notified, even though the specific address of the one property wasn't. So, and I told Ronnie, if there's a problem, which I doubt if there will be, we'll take our chances with somebody saying it's defective service. In my opinion, they've been served.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me just say the following, just so we can very briefly talk about this, but I'm inclined to recommend that we go forward tonight.
Okay.
When you look at the MLUL, the first thing you look at is the notice. You make sure that the property is identified properly, whether it be by address or lot or block. And it's clear that Mr. Halloran did serve, a governmental entity, the DOT. But the problem that I have, and again, not a criticism of Vince, who I've known forever, it's obviously preferable to serve everyone on the list, whether it's redundant or not. I would be recommending to the board that we move forward tonight with the understanding that the applicant bears the risk of any potential issue. If the DOT were to come here and object, you understand, Mr. Halloran,
absolutely.
that would, in all likelihood, in the event of an approval, that absolutely would jeopardize that approval. Would you agree?
Absolutely, the
But-
applicant is well aware of that.
But other than that, I would recommend to the board that he did make service on at least the state of New Jersey, DOT, the proper agency. It's not as if he served, Fish and Game or something like that. So my position would be, with everything we put on the record, that we should move forward and take jurisdiction and agree that the notice is adequate, let's say, for the proceeding.
Okay,
Mr. Halloran, anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Your show.
your show.
I have potentially 4 witnesses, Peter Saker Jr., Lou Saker, who are the heirs of Peter Sr. and Josephine Saker. This is their
Okay.
homestead, basically. And 2 experts. One is Vince Creevy from Abington Engineer. He's our engineering. And one is Barbara Lane from Beacon Planner. She's our planner.
Okay.
With that, Lou, would you come on up?
Why don't we bring them all up?
Why don't we bring
Okay,
them
but
up?
one
and-
time?
That's another thing. Where do you want us, everybody to
Socially
sit? I don't
distant,
know.
but we could swear everyone
And
in
should
at
I
once.
stay here? 'Cause other
Yes,
people are
sir,
gonna-
you're right there.
But other people are going to be doing more talking that's more important than what I'm saying.
Come on up,
Yes, sir,
please, and,
you're right there.
just make yourself
I just want to make sure they're close enough to the microphones.
Yep. Well, they'll be able to come up one at a time.
They won't respond.
So let's see. We're ready, everyone? Okay. All set, sir? You raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you'll give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Very good. Sir, starting with you, your name, please.
Peter Saker,
Very good. And you may go back in the gallery.
Louis Saker,
Okay, thank you, sir.
Barbara Allen?
Thank you.
Vince Creevy,
Thank you. All sworn.
Barbara,
Okay.
could you just spell your last name for me?
E-H-L-E-N.
E-H-L-E-N. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Halloran?
E-H-L-E-N.
Come on up. I think I'm going to let him sit here, because unless you don't mind standing up.
No, he can stand at the lectern. We have to maintain
Okay.
social
Okay,
distancing,
okay.
please.
Yes, there you go.
Lou, would you give the board the background, briefly, you don't have to go through the entire history of this property?
This property in question was purchased by my father approximately 1961. The 940 property was an existing house and some 3 cottages and barn, and it was owned by a local resident who happened to be the brother-in-law of the existing mayor at the time, Edward Courts. The property that was bought by my father was 2 parts, one at the corner of Howell Road and Highway 33, and the other section was just across the Long Brook. There was an existing bridge, it was an existing farm. My father built his office building at the corner of 33 and Howell Road, and through the years proceeded to build commercial buildings. He built his house in 1962 on the east side of the brook. In approximately 1964 or 5, he built a house for my uncle, his brother, on the same lot, which again is lot 8.04, which is approximately, I think, about 8 or 10 acres. Since my father has passed, the industrial park has been sold, but the property on the east side of the brook that we're talking about now, again, the residents remain, and what we're doing is we're looking to split most of the pasture, which is probably about 8 acres, away from the houses, and adjoin it to the property that my brother and I own at 940 Highway 33, which is Lot 11. And that's basically what we're looking to do now. And in doing so, we want to split the two houses for separate lots because it continues to be a compound for our family. My sister is living in my father's house, and my cousin is living in his father's house at this point.
You're proposing any physical changes to the property at all?
No physical changes at all. We're basically just want to, again, separate the houses so that they do have a future there, should they want to stay, which sounds like they do, pass it on to their families. So the two houses will have two separate lots. And the field, we haven't decided what we're going to do with that after we join it with the 940 property, which has highway frontage at
And
this
your
point.
intention is to use that commercially or per the zoning,
Commercially,
right?
correct. It's an SED zone, we know that, and someday we may end up selling it, if not developing it ourselves, but probably selling it. And we wanted to attach the back pasture area with the front lot number 11.
Okay, so, let me get this right. So it's only two lots, or 3 lots?
Well, right now, there are 2 lots, and we're
Right.
looking to split the 2 homes to make that 2 lots, and the remaining field that is part of where the homes are now, we want to split that and join with our property 940,
To make it 1101?
make it 11 or whatever designation.
It's still
yeah.
going to be, so you're technically not joining it. It's still going to be its own separate lot, correct?
That's not the intention.
Not
I don't
the
know what
intention.
shows, but you can't create a landlocked lot. You shouldn't.
No, I understand, but wouldn't it, 1101, that would be considered as a separate lot from 11, correct?
No,
Charlie?
no, they're removing that lot line, so 1101 is going to be the new lot.
Oh, okay, so 11's going to be gone.
Correct.
Okay, got you. So you, okay, 805 is one house, 806 is the other house, and then you're gonna
Correct.
put that field along, okay, got it now. Got it. Board members, y'all clear on that now? Clear on that?
Honestly, no.
Okay, 1101 is gonna, 11.
What's there now?
You got 11
Vacant lot, right?
and 8,
Vacant lot, right?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify for
Yes,
the
sir.
board members?
Yeah,
So-
the pasture that adjoins the 2 homes is vacant. It's an open field.
right,
It's been used as a horse pasture and for 80, 70, 80 years.
And is the front of it vacant also?
The front of Lot 11, most of that lot is vacant, except for the single-family home up front. And again, there were 3 cabins on that property that, again, have been there for longer than I've been around, so it's probably a good 80 or 90 years or more as small rentals.
was in the back lot, is that a duplex back there?
No.
There's no duplex here.
The back lot is a single-family home. Both of those homes are single-family homes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could just kind of clarify it
Yes.
for the board. So you have 2 existing lots. You have Lot 8.04, which is the southwesterly portion of the tract. That has 2 single-family dwellings, and those are accessed from an access easement on the adjacent property to the west, which is Fairfield Industrial Park. Mr. Saker obviously testified that those properties used to be in common ownership by his family, so obviously that's how they got the access easement there. The eastern portion of that subject property is an existing farm field. With this subdivision, they're proposing to draw a new lot line separating that farm field from those 2 existing residences and merge that with the property Lot 11, which fronts on Highway Route 33 East.
correct.
That property has several dwellings on there. A couple of them are indicated as cottages. So that property itself, Lot 11, which fronts on Route 33, is going to now take that farm portion of Lot 8.04. I also want to just clarify for the board, The properties to the south are, there's 4 or 5 various lots that are owned by state DOT. That's Route 33 bypass. So in terms of our review for some of the setbacks and things like that and property frontages, we reviewed that as a front yard. So right now, 8.04, it has technical frontage to the south because that's Route 33 right away. It has Route 33 bypass. With the current proposed application, they're creating one lot which does not have any frontage, lot 8.06. That's at the northwest corner of the tract. Lot 8.05 at the southwest. It has technical frontage on Route 33, the bypass, but it still requires an access easement through proposed lot 8.06, and then also access easement through adjacent lot. I don't have the, I think it's 8.02 to the west, which is Fairfield Industrial Park. So hopefully that kind of gives you a broad overview of what everything's going on there.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Charlie, that can clarify?
So, obviously, right now, they have one lot, 8.04, with 2 single-family residential dwellings. They have a shared driveway which accesses an easement through Fairfield Industrial Park to get to Route 33. Can the applicant provide some testimony as to the condition of the existing driveway, makeup, width of the driveway? Obviously, one of the concerns that was raised in the memo from the Fire Bureau is, can it support a fire truck, as far as width and then composition. We're creating a lot that's got technical frontage on Route 33, that's lot 8.05, all the way at the southwest corner of the property. I think as part of this application, one of the major concerns the board has, and, they just want to make sure if they're granting approval for this subdivision, that there's no issue with access for fire and things like that, and emergency vehicles, in the event of fire or heart attack or something to that nature. So can you provide some testimony?
The drive-in is all blacktop and has been there, again, since the mid-'60s, and it has been maintained and topped over the years by our company or outside subcontractors. I believe, I don't know the exact width of it, but I believe the road is approximately 15 to 18 feet in width. And again, it runs from the bridge from Longbrook and heads south towards my cousin's house.
Okay.
Again, I don't know the length, but it stops at his driveway and his garage.
So, and then as part of that, it looks like you're proposing to relocate a portion of the easement on the adjoining property, that's Fairfield Industrial Park. Has the applicant been in correspondence with the current owner of the industrial park regarding, the likelihood of, granting, amendment of that easement?
I have spoken with him. I don't believe we've technically
Formally, no.
contacted him, but I've spoken with him, Mr. Moses Schwartz, and he understands that, we would like to keep that as an easement, and he has no problem with that verbally. If I need to get something more from him, I certainly.
Well, the board, we would require that as part of the application,
Okay,
That'd be a
to
condition
have
of-
something in writing.
I can get that.
So what I will say is there's a recorded easement in there. The recorded easement doesn't overlap with the physical location of the existing driveway that's there. What they're proposing is to, relocate a portion of the easement to encompass where the existing driveway is, so there's no future access issues, should the board grant, the major subdivision approval for this property. One of the concerns that I do have is obviously the Fire Bureau, raised a concern regarding the width of the driveway. I think that's something the board should discuss, whether or not, I know we're saying this is just a subdivision because with no proposed improvements or anything like that, whether or not they should be required to widen the driveway just for emergency purposes. And then regarding any cross-access easements for that property 805, I think the board, is going to want to see a copy of the easement, and I think the language in the easement needs to be very specific as to, who's responsible for maintenance of the driveway and things like that, just that I know we're saying right now it's all common lot ownership, it's all the same family, but at some point in the future, the lots may change hands,
That's not a problem right now.
Not only that, Charlie, but the property's been there since 1960, 61. And they've maintained that driveway back and forth in there, so do you think that's really gonna be a problem since it's been there so long?
So I don't know that composition is probably an issue. I think it's a matter of whether the fire borough is going to accept something that's less than 20 feet. And the 20 feet is, God forbid you have a fire and there's a fire truck, an emergency vehicle coming in there, and someone from the property is also trying to drive out, the 20 feet is so you have the ability to have two vehicles kind of pass each other at the same time. So what I would say is if the fire borough doesn't take issue with it and will sign off on it, that might satisfy the board's concerns on that. As far as composition, if it's existed for a long period of time and, it's been suitable for the traffic that they've had on there, I don't know that I would necessarily take an issue with it.
Okay. Mr. Holloran, do you have a problem with that?
No, I'm sure the engineers can figure that out.
Okay. Do you have
Anything else of Lou?
Do you have any questions from the board?
No.
Okay, I guess I'd call Vince Creevy, engineer. You familiar with this Vince, you want to briefly state your qualifications?
Yes, sir.
I'm a licensed land surveyor. I did the survey of the property. I've appeared before the Howell Board numerous times as a surveyor and environmental expert.
Okay. We accept your credentials.
Could you explain from your perspective the application?
We won't be able to hear you.
You gotta stand by the mic.
You got to be by a mic somewhere.
This mic right here at Eileen, we can turn this mic around.
We could do that.
You want to sit, Vince?
You want to turn that one around? You can use that.
wanted to get closer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you need a microphone as well. Is it on, Matt?
Thank you.
You can lift it up too if it's easier. There you go.
All right, one of the things I wanted to comment on is the easement that runs up here. We are proposing to relocate that easement, but it will actually make it less of an easement on the property than it is now. It will shorten it up to meet that roadway. So I doubt that the owner of the property will have a problem making an easement that already exists less of an easement on their property. So I think that should be good. And just to kind of go over this, this is all one lot. This is 804.
Right.
And for some reason, two houses were built on it, two residential houses, and no subdivision was done. And what the aim of the subdivision, even though it is a major subdivision because 3 lots are being created now, is to make these 2 lots fee simple. So that, as Lou stated, their relatives can remain there, pass it on to their families. It wasn't a problem up until now when everything has started to get sold. With regard to the driveway, I was out there. The driveway is pretty heavy, thick asphalt, and it appears to be over a stone base. So I don't think there's a problem with the material of it. As Lou stated, this thing varies in width. In some places, it's 18 feet wide. In other places, it's probably 13 feet wide. So that is certainly something to be looked at. I would say that it has serviced these houses since 1962. I don't know if they've ever had any emergencies or fires there, but it's remained that way for some time, and everything there is quite well maintained. In addition to this, we did receive an LOI recently for the wetlands line, and so none of the houses or any of the existing improvements are in the wetlands or in the wetlands buffer, and it's going to remain that way. There was some question about the stream being a 300-foot buffer stream. I've made inquiries to the NJDEP, and it's not a Category 1 stream. It doesn't have a 300-foot buffer. It's a FW1 non-trout stream with a standard 50-foot riparian buffer. With regard to the Howell Township 100-foot stream buffer, that doesn't create a problem for any of the improvements on the property. However, when you tack the additional 100-foot buffer on, making it 200 foot, that does cover some of the existing septic system and improvements. I would certainly ask the board to consider getting rid of the secondary 100-foot buffer just to make it easy if repairs are needed to be done to the septics or other improvements that would fall within that 200 foot. We have a planner here too who will be talking about that. And then what the Sakers would like to do here is retain the use of this field area and attach it to Lot 11, making it 1101, so that that could be utilized for a commercial use in the future. Any questions?
You will have enough room for commercial to residential to have buffers and everything else, correct?
Yeah, well, the buffers would go on the commercial.
Right.
Yeah. You'd
That's what
have,
I'm saying.
you know, if you develop that as a commercial site, you
50
really
foot
wouldn't
buffer.
have any choice but to abide by the regulations.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, a major subdivision requires a perimeter buffer of 50 feet around the entirety of the subdivision, and then the setbacks would be measured off that 50-foot buffer line, which creates some setback issues for existing structures on proposed lot 8.05, and probably 8.04, and definitely, so it basically creates some issues for you on all
Right.
3 lots, but technically, they need that perimeter buffer now.
Right.
I would ask a question, Mr. Creevy. So in this zone, the required square footage is 120,000 square feet, correct?
Correct.
Why is it that you could not figure out a way to get Lot 806 compliant? Because I can't figure it out. You got plenty of area there, and I would request that you figure out a way to get it to 120,000 square feet.
What do we have it at now?
119,802.46 square feet. It's like 196 square feet off.
We can certainly fix that.
That's what I was hoping for.
That might be the original submission that I think you might be looking at. So they did revise the plans and submit a revised plan which shows that 806 is compliant with the lot
Because
area.
I don't have those plans, so.
Yeah, so I think there was, in our first review letter, we had some comments regarding the lot lines not, overlapping with the, the survey lot lines and things like that, and Mr. Creevy subsequently provided a revised plan. I just want to double back, Mr. Chairman, on the stream corridor buffer, so.
Yes.
Just to clarify for the board, and Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe the stream corridor buffer ordinance was adopted until the mid to early 2000s, 2004, somewhere thereabouts. Obviously, the applicant has put a lot of testimony on a lot of these structures and the drive-ways existing since like 1961. They're not proposing any improvements or construction at this time within those proposed buffers. What I will say is, on the major subdivision plan, obviously, they're showing the 100-foot stream corridor and the 100-foot stream corridor buffer on top of that. I would just note for the applicant, at some time in the future, if the board does grant, approval for this major subdivision, if one of those individual lot owners wanted to propose like a patio or something like that, there's a potential that they would need to come back to the board for an approval on that lot, for creating disturbance within the stream corridor or stream corridor buffer.
And not to cut you off, Charlie, they'll be back because of a non-conforming use as well.
Exactly, so that's a good point. So, and then I will say the ordinance, the wording of the ordinance for the stream corridor buffer gives the board the discretion to deed restrict the stream corridor or the stream corridor buffer as a conservation easement, Obviously, we've had a lot of discussion regarding conservation easements in the last several years on various applications. My recommendation would be that it can contain a lot of the same language as a conservation easement in regards to recording the major subdivision, but that it not specifically be called a conservation easement for Green Acres purposes and things in that effect. So that if the board, if the applicant wanted to come back in the future and propose something within there, it gives the board the discretion to grant approval without needing any outside agency approvals from Green Acres or DEP. You generally agree with that comment?
I completely agree with that. You know, it makes it easier for the board retains flexibility, and again, as you say, there's no complication with the, you know, any outside agency, Green Acres and so forth, so if that's, and the board has seen that in other cases, and again, I just think, Mr. Chairman, the flexibility that Charlie's talking about is well worth considering.
Okay, Jen, anything else? Board members, y'all have any questions?
No.
Questions? None?
Thank you.
Good right now.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Over.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Over, would you briefly state your
Yep.
background qualification?
My name is Barbara Allen. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey and an AICP. I work with Beacon Planning since 2008, and I've worked my way up to project manager. I have an undergraduate degree from Binghamton University and a master's from Monmouth University. I've been accepted by numerous boards, including Tinton Falls, Neptune City, Manalapan, Ocean, Red Bank, Carteret. Am I acceptable?
We accept your credentials.
All right. If we could go to the aerial. So before you is an aerial of the subject property.
Before we do that, we got to wait 1 minute because I got to get somebody to switch it, but we also need to mark this into evidence.
Okay.
This is going to be A8. You can just mark this one, Rich. Very good. Okay, we're good, thank you.
Good, great. So we've described the property and its history, so I'm gonna kind of skip a little bit forward towards the more planning-focused testimony. The subject property is located within the Special Economic Zone, which permits uses such as agriculture and forestry, assembly and packaging, construction, financial institutions, healthcare, microbreweries, multi-purpose recreation, sports complexes, etc. This evening's application is limited to subdividing the existing 2 parcels into 3 parcels. As this is considered a major subdivision, because 3 lots are being created, and residential uses are not permitted as of right, a D2 variance is requested to permit the expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use. As was detailed, the homes on the western portion were constructed in the 1960s. The homes on Lot 11 in its northeast corner, local tax records actually date those to the 1920s. So the proposed lot lines also trigger a handful of variances. The rest are existing conditions. They trigger, as was mentioned by Jennifer Beam, the buffer requirement for 50 feet around the entire perimeter. It also triggers a variance associated with Lot 8.05, as it, suddenly there's a rear yard setback requirement. And it also makes proposed Lot 8.06 a landlocked parcel. Before getting into all the variance standards, I just wanted to point out, let me go back for a second, to the neighborhood characterization. To the west of Lot 11, adjoining it, you'll see a long, kind of thin property that actually also has multiple structures on it that are residential. The area as a whole is kind of an intermingling of commercial and residential.
I'm sorry, what's west on that?
West is to the left.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just jump in, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want the board to be very clear that what they're asking for is a subdivision on paper. There's going to be no change in the field whatsoever. All these structures are existing. The lot lines may generate some additional setback relief, but they're not proposing any additional structure. So what they're asking for is to separate that back lot, add property to the lot that's fronting on 33 Business, and then separate the two lots into two separated lots so that the two single-family homes are separated, but they're not requesting any improvements whatsoever. So the D2 variance, because typically we hear a D1 variance, so we have to go through the whole hoopla of like particular suitability, but a D2 variance is a much lower burden. It's can the site accommodate this quote-unquote increase? And the increase is just simply they're adding a lot line. That's it. There's nothing being proposed. So I don't mean to cut you off, but we could probably just like.
Anyone have any questions?
So I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to make very clear that we don't typically see a variance of this nature, right? They're always asking to build something. Here, they're really just trying to legally separate two houses that have been on the property, as was testified to earlier, for many, many, many years, and it has continued to operate without incident. Clearly, I mean, I don't know how many people have logged in, because we can't really see that, but I just wanted to be abundantly clear that what the applicant is asking for is a lot line adjustment. I mean, I know it's technically a major subdivision, but it's on paper. You know, when we see like the shopping centers that come in that ask for a financial subdivision for various purposes, but the site will continue to operate as it has for years and years. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear, and that the burden that Barbara here is expected to meet is much lower than what we would see for a traditional D1 variance.
Right. Well, also, Jen, if they are going to do anything with the property, they're going to be back here anyway.
Well, of course, but at the same time, I just want you to realize, like, if you
Yeah, I
say
know.
no, let's say at first, like, and I'm not advocating that by any stretch, but if you did say no, it's not like there will be any change to the use of the property at all.
Exactly.
So I just want the board to be abundantly aware of, like, what exactly it is that's being requested.
Exactly.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, that was
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
We'll send you a bill.
All right, so just so that we can have it on the record, the standard is Coventry, which means we just have to address that the site can accommodate the deviation. In this respect, nothing is changing. It's a better zoning alternative because it gets the two lots onto fee simple. And actually, it adds land to the one that has the 4 dwellings. That actually decreases the density. There are no negative impacts. There's no increase in traffic. There's no increase in noise, traffic, or stormwater. With respect to the bulk variances, we would argue it's a C1, as it's a hardship as they're existing. Nobody's shifting any buildings. Nobody's moving any improvements. So these are existing conditions that most likely became nonconforming after they were constructed. With respect to your master plan, it recognizes that residential is intermixed with commercial in this portion of the community. Did I miss anything?
All I would say is, I don't necessarily agree that they're all a C1 variance, because you are creating that lot line, which is creating some setback variances associated with the new lot line between 805 and 806. But I would represent to the board that it's a better planning alternative to have those lots separated and have the bulk variance subsumed within the use variance, because even though there is some setback relief necessary for the existing structures from that new lot line between 805 and 806, I think the creation of two separate lots to create two separate principal uses is a better planning alternative, and I would support the relief that's necessary to achieve the subdivision.
Thank you.
So again, any questions?
Can you just put on the record as far as the easements that are involved, that there's no detriment?
There's no detriment. The parcels are currently accessed through the easements, and it has been established since the 1960s. I would say it would be more detrimental to try and get an access off of the Route 33 highway.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just jump in and clarify as well. Obviously, it's a major subdivision, so there's a bunch of design waivers in regards to like planting street trees, sidewalks, curbing along the roadway frontage, things of that nature. Obviously, looking at the area, you can see there's no curbing or sidewalk along the adjacent properties. Our review letter, obviously, an ordinance was passed within the last year requiring a voluntary contribution to the Sidewalk Trust Fund. If the board is granted a waiver of that, my understanding is the governing body just recently repealed that ordinance. So, it's up to the board's, feeling on that. Obviously, the ordinance was in effect at the time of this application, but the ordinance has since been repealed. So I would leave it up to the discretion of the board on that.
I think we can let that go, because if they were coming in with new construction, then that would be a different thing, Charlie.
Yeah, obviously, it's not a commercial use, so it's a
Yep.
little bit different, and obviously, the neighborhood and the adjoining properties do not have it as well. And I just wanted to get on the record with the street trees and things like that. There's various design technical waivers that are required, and I take no issue with the granting of those, should the board decides.
Mr. Chair, my witnesses are all here in case the public, I don't know how you
Okay.
handle that.
Eileen, well, let's see, is there any questions from the board?
No.
Board members, any questions? Professionals, any further comments or questions?
No, sir.
Charlie? Matt, do you have any comments there?
So, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I'll say is, obviously, Monmouth County Board of Health issued a memo, I think it was June 1st. There was a couple items that they wanted clarified by the applicant. I spoke with Board of Health this morning. My understanding is that they have a memo pending issued that will be issued this week, indicating that the applicant has addressed those outstanding concerns. However, should that change, obviously, the applicant's just got to make sure they get all outside agency approvals, including Monmouth County Board of Health.
Okay, seeing no questions of the witnesses, can I have a motion to open to public?
I'll make the motion to open to public.
Motion by Mr. Hughes. Seconded by Mr. Roscoe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Eileen, you want to? Yep. Telephone working?
Yes, I just want to make sure. And we do have a notice up for members of the public, so we'll give them a minute to call in if nobody calls.
Yeah, we'll give them,
Just went up, so we can give it a couple minutes from now.
yeah, we'll give them 5-10 minutes there. You're not in a hurry, Mr. Halloran, are you?
No, I recall last time I was here, I was late and you waited for me, so I'm spared. I hope not the last time, the most recent time.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I could just make one more quick comment. So obviously, Mr. Creevy alluded to an LOI that had been obtained. I think obviously the subdivision plan showed the delineation of 50-foot buffer. I just asked that the applicant, as a condition of approval, provide a copy for the board's record. And should anything deviate from the LOI, obviously the applicant could potentially need to come back to the board for, amended approval.
No problem.
Okay. Is this also online too?
Yes, it is.
Everybody wave.
There's a lot of people watching.
Just so everybody knows, next month, starting in August, all our meetings will be back to normal.
Oh,
So
okay.
everybody will be in attendance, so it'll be a little easier,
With mask though, right?
with masks.
Yeah.
And we'll
And-
still maintain social distancing.
What's the limit gonna be?
This room can hold 50 people,
Okay,
but if we have too many, we're going to ask some applicants if there's more than one that they can stay outside. That's why we put chairs in the lobby and
right. Is the phone lines burning up yet?
no, I don't think so.
Any requests?
So busy, they can't get through.
Wolfman Jack.
It's up to you.
Give it a couple more minutes. Anyone from the public wish to call and make a comment or ask a question, please feel free to.
You want me to go out in the hall and call in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Matt was going to call in.
What's your question, Matt? Okay, can I have a motion to close public?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Cantor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hughes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Holleran, you want to make a closing statement there?
I thought our second expert planner was very good. Your planner, and I think we've told you the story, and I just ask you to approve, subject to the conditions we talked about.
Okay, any further, Charlie?
No, Mr. Chair.
Jen? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application. I do agree that getting those two dwellings into a fee simple situation is definitely beneficial. I do like the recommendations from Charlie on the conservation easement, what he
The
was
wording.
describing, and also the sidewalk waiver. I think that's fair in this situation. And based on all the testimony, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Hughes. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion for the same reasons, what's your name again?
Hughes.
Mr. Hughes, I'm sorry, I got but anyway, I second the motion. I think everything is pretty well spelled out by our professionals, and I think it's a good thing to see families staying together in this situation, so I say I approve this motion.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Mertens. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may. Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Mertens?
Yes.
Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mr. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Chairman Nansen?
I'd like to add a few more findings of facts. As far as the Fire Bureau, you know, the applicant needs to address some of the width issues there. You know, even if they have to get them out and let them verify that, you know, the driveway can be suitable to get emergency vehicles down. We need in writing, you know, the easement, you know, we need all of that in writing, submitted back, part of the resolution and to the board. As far as maintenance, the agreements, whatever's involved with that. And my vote would be yes also.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you very
Good
much.
luck, Mr. Holleran.
Good seeing you again.
Okay, any further business of the board? Seeing none, what's our next meeting?
Our next meeting is August the 10th.
August 10th. Okay. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Hughes,
Thank you.
seconded by Mr. Roscoe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Zoning board adjourned.
Thank you.
Same channel.